Hi, Tanukis. I hope you're well. I hope you're all looking after yourselves and your family and staying safe. It's beautiful weather this week, at least. So hopefully you're getting out and having some air if you can and if it's safe too. Um, Nothing really happening here. I haven't cut my hair yet, as you can see, for better or for worse. The razor blade hasn't, the clippers, that's the word, hasn't arrived yet. So if you see me wearing a hat in the next video, you'll know what's happened, and I'm not going to explain why. I don't think I'm meant to be a barber. I don't have the attention for detail. Right, so we're going to continue on with the Secret Seven, and we're on to Chapter 6, finding out a few things. We're going to find out about these two mysterious men in Chapter 5. All the Secret Seven set off at once, feeling extremely important. Scamper went with Peter, Colin, and Jack, his tail well up, and he also felt very important. He was mixed up in a mystery with the society. No wonder he turned up his nose at every dog he met. They met Pam and George at the corner, looking rather worried. The two looked at one another. "How are we going to find out who owns the house?" said Pam. "Ask at the post office," said George, feeling that he really had got a very bright idea. "Surely, if the house is owned by someone who has put in a caretaker, there must be letters going there." So caretaker will kind of take care of a big house, nothing like I live in. Good idea, said Pam. And then they went off to the post office. They were lucky enough to see a postman emptying the letters from the letterbox outside. George nudged Pam. "Come on, we'll ask him." They went up to the man. "Excuse me," said George. "Could you tell us who lives at the old house down by the stream? You know, the empty house there." "How can anyone live in an empty house?" said the postman. "Don't ask silly questions and waste my time." "You children, you think you're so funny, don't you?" "We didn't mean to be funny, or cheeky either," said Pam in a hurry. What George means is, who owns the house? There's a caretaker there, we know. We just wondered who the house belongs to." "Why, thinking of buying it?" said the postman, and laughed at his own joke. Imagine someone laughing at their own joke. Not my style at all. The children laughed too, wishing the man would answer their question. "How would I know who owns the place?" he said, emptying the last of the letters into his sack. "I never take letters there, except to old Dan, the caretaker, and he only gets one in his month. One once in a month. His wages, maybe. Better ask the estate agents over there. They deal with houses, and they might know the owner, seeing as you're so anxious to find him." "Oh, thank you," said Pam joyfully, and the two of them hurried across to the estate agents. So an estate agent, if you don't know, sells houses. And helps you buy a house. "We might have thought of this ourselves," said Pam. "But, I say, what shall we say if the man here asks why we want to know? You only go to an estate agent if you want to sell or buy a house, don't you?" They peeped in at the door. A boy of about 15 sat at a table there, addressing some letters. He didn't look very frightening. Perhaps he would know, and wouldn't ask them why they wanted to know the name of the letter. They went boldly in. The boy looked up. "What do you want?" he said. "We've been told to ask who owns the old house down by the stream," said George, hoping the boy might think that some grown-up had sent him to find out. Actually, it was only Peter, of course, but he didn't see why he should say so. "I don't think that house is on the market," said the boy, turning over the pages of a big book. "Do your parents want to buy it or something? I didn't know it was to be sold." The two children said nothing, because they didn't really know what to say. The boy went on turning over the pages. "Ah, here we are," he said. "No, it's not for sale. It was sold to a Mr. J. Holocaust some time ago. Don't know why he lives in it. Why he doesn't live in it, I'm sure. Does Mr. Holocaust live anywhere near here?" asked Pam. "No, his address is 64 Haydcombe Street, Covelty," said the boy, reading it out. No GDPR in those days. "Of course, I don't know if he lives there now. Do your people want to get in touch with him?" "I can find out if this is his address now, if you like. He's on the telephone at this address." "Oh, no, thank you," said George hastily. "We don't want to know anything more, as the house is not for sale. Thank you very much. Good morning." They went out rather red in the face, but rather pleased with himself. "Mr. Holocaust," said Pam to George. "It's a peculiar name, isn't it? Do you remember his address, George?" "Yes," said George. He took out his notebook and wrote in it, "Mr. J. Holocaust, 64 Haydcombe Street, Covelty." "Well, we've done our part of the job. I wonder how the others are getting on." They were getting on quite well. Janet and Barbara were busy examining the tracks down by the lane that led to the stream. They felt quite like detectives. "See, the car with the van behind, or whatever it was, turned into the lane from the direction of Templeton. It didn't come from our village," said Janet. "You can see quite clearly where the wheels almost went into the ditch." Yeah, Janet's got her voice back again. "Yes," said Barbara. Barbara's just going to be Irish. Sorry, Barbara. staring at them. The tracks of the van wheels are narrower than the wheels of the car that towed Janet. And look, just here in the snow, you can see exactly what the pattern was on the wheels of the van. Not of the van, though. They're all blurred. Of the car, though. They're all blurred. Don't you think it would be a good idea to take note? Don't you think it would be a good idea to take note of the pattern of the tyre? Said Janet. I mean, it might just come in useful. And we could measure the width of the tyre print, too. She's getting posher by the day, Janet, I'll tell you. I don't see how these things could possibly matter, said Barbara, who wanted to go down the lane and join the three boys. Well, I'm going to try and copy the pattern, said Janet firmly. I'd like to have something to show the boys. Well, I'm going to try and copy the... Sorry, I just read that. So very carefully, she drew in the pattern in her notebook. It was a funny pattern with lines and circles and V-shaped marks. It didn't really look very good when she had done it. She had measured the print as best she could. She had no tape measure with her, so she placed a sheet from her notebook over the track and had marked in it the exact size. She felt rather pleased with herself, but she did wish she had drawn the pattern better. Barbara laughed when she saw it. Goodness, what a mess, she said. Janet looked cross and shut her notebook up. Let's follow the tracks down the lane now, she said. We'll see exactly where they go. Not many vans come down here. We ought to be able to follow the tracks easily. She was quite right. It was very easy to follow them. They went on and on down the lane and then stopped outside the old house. There were such a lot of all kinds of marks that it was difficult to see exactly what they were. Footprints, tyre marks, places where the snow had been kicked and ruffled up. It was hard to tell anything except that this was where people had got out, and perhaps had some kind of struggle. Look, the tyre marks leave all this mess and go on down the lane, said Janet. She looked... Janet lost her voice. Oops. She looked over the gate longingly. Weren't the boys in the old house the caretaker? Let's go and see if we can find the boys. No, we haven't quite finished our job yet, said Janet. We ought to follow the tracks as far as they go. Come on, we'll see if they go as far as the stream. There are two lots of tracks all down the lane, as we saw. So it's clear the car and trailer went down and then up again. We'll find out where they turned. That was easy. The tracks went down to a field gate, almost to the stream. Someone had opened the gate, and the car had gone in with the trailer and made a circle there, come out of the gate again, and returned up the lane. It was all clearly written in the tyre tracks. Well, that's the story of last night, said Janet, pleased at their discoveries. The car and the thing it was pulling came down from the direction of Templeton, turned down into this lane, stopped outside the old house where people got out and messed around. Then it went down to the field, someone opened the gate, the car and trailer went in and turned, and came out again and went up the lane and then disappeared into the night. Who or what it brought in the trailer van, goodness knows. Funny thing to do in the middle of the night, said Barbara. Very odd. I forgot Janet's voice earlier on. Oops. Agreed Janet. Now, let's go back to the old house and wait for the boys. It's almost 1 o'clock. Oh, that's wrong. It's almost 1 o'clock, said Barbara. Do you think they're still here? They hung over the gate and watched and listened. To their horror, the old caretaker came rushing out as soon as he saw them, his big stick in his hand. More of you, he cried. You wait till I get you. You'll feel my stick all right. Pestering, interfering children. You just wait. But Barbara and Janet didn't wait. They fled up the lane in fright as fast as they could, possibly to go in the soft, thick snow. So, it's a bit of a weird twist. We'll find out what happens tomorrow when we go into chapter 7 as we talk with the caretaker. Right, talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.